Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, Never Alone. Today I want to talk about how I found treatment helpful for my OCD and anxiety. So, tomorrow I am discharging from my second residential treatment program. I have been in treatment for 6 months, and here are the few things I know about treatment that I think could be beneficial to you if you are struggling, or what I found beneficial to myself, and skills that might be helpful in stressful situations. During treatment, I did a specific type of therapy called ERP and ACT. ERP stands for Exposure Response Prevention, and that is the primary sort of treatment that I received. So exposures are like, my personal struggle was contamination OCD, so I couldn't touch certain things. So an exposure would be somebody there helping guide you through touching it. And then the response prevention is preventing rituals after that, such as washing my hands or brushing my hands off on my clothing or anything that makes my anxiety reduce. So the point was to purposely make yourself anxious and then sit with that anxiety. It's 6 months of that, and as you can see, it definitely worked. My arms are not cracked and bleeding everywhere anymore. The ACT stands for Acceptance Commitment Therapy, which means it's the idea of a fear you have and how you can associate something good with the fear. So maybe I've had a bad experience at school and it makes me nervous to go back. So what I do is I purposely go to school, but I go with a friend and make a new positive memory there. That's the idea of acceptance commitment therapy. And then the commitment piece is the part where it's like willingness, like you have to be willing to go do this and make yourself uncomfortable in order to accept that there could be something like beneficial from it instead of just that specific fear. So you don't want to get rid of the fear completely. You're not trying to cover it up, but it's the idea of, oh, I'm scared of school. First I think of this positive memory and then I think of the upsetting memory, so that there's a two-sided, oh, you know, it could like not be as bad as I thought. Exposures were the most helpful thing for me. I did 5 months, almost 5 months of residential treatment at Rogers Behavioral Health. While I was there, I was able to do a lot of ERP, and ERP was super helpful. And not only did I just do ERP, but I also did different types of therapy. I worked a lot with exposures, but we also had experiential therapy and art therapy. Experiential therapy for me was extremely helpful. It was a lot of outside movement, the idea that nature can cause peace and bring anxiety down a bit. Also good exposures, fear of heights. We did ropes course stuff. And that's also a trust thing because you have a belay team of the other kids holding you up there, which it's very safe because it's a hospital, but it's just a really good exposure. The most helpful thing that I did there was I went on a camping trip and a caving trip. The camping trip was extremely hard because, especially for kids with contamination, we didn't have sinks. We had like a pitcher that you click the little thing on and do that with, and it's freezing cold and it's like almost snow outside. It's like so cold and barely any soap and then sanitizer, and you're like, I don't want to be washing my hands, it's freezing. So it was a very, very good exposure for me. Not being able to shower, super hard. Sleeping in a cabin bed that I don't know who slept in there before or why there were pink nail polish stains on it. Very, very good exposure. Caving was super good. I get a little anxious in tight spaces, especially like tight, dark spaces. Art therapy was super good. It wasn't just sitting down and doing art. It always had this therapy element to it. So it was like, you sit down and I want you to write a poem with a certain color. And a lot of people would tie it into OCD, or, hey, here's magazine pieces. I want you to cut it out and write an inspirational quote, or I want you to draw yourself in a nature scene with your OCD. So you could do water because it feels like you're drowning. You could do a mountain because it feels like you're climbing up a mountain, like fighting this battle. You could do a forest. It feels like you're just lost. And so it was a really helpful thing for my OCD. Exposures were the most helpful, of course, because that is like the main thing that OCD is. And I was like so against exposures. I was like, if I could be touching stuff that was contaminated, I wouldn't be here. But the point is, you have these staff members coaching you through it, and even though it's not by force, you feel obligated that you have to do it because an adult is like by your side being like, you got this, girl. And so you just do it. Also super nice to be surrounded by tons of teens with like similar issues to you. So I was surrounded by tons of kids who had like different types of OCD, perfectionism, contamination, counting, something bad is gonna happen. It's helpful to have those type of people around you because nobody can really fully understand what you're going through except people who have similar struggles and Jesus. There's not many other people that can fully get what you get. And so having people there, like kids my own age struggling with similar stuff around me, was extremely beneficial to treatment because it's not very often that you hear somebody be like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. You just touched that doorknob. Like, that's just not something you hear in like everyday life. Like, if I were to go pick up a contaminated pencil, nobody would know and nobody would be like, good job picking up that pencil. But when you have a group of kids around you, they start to like recognize the things that you do. Lastly, I would like to mention some skills that I found helpful during my treatment and that you guys may too find helpful. The first skill is called categories. It's something that you do with a friend. It helps make you focus on something other than your overwhelming thoughts. Even though the thoughts are still there, it helps you to manage them by taking a little bit of power back over your thoughts and really grounding yourself. Categories is used with a friend because you choose a category together. Technically, you could do it yourself, but it's just better and funner that way. So you choose a category together. So say I said like dog breeds, and then you would go back and forth between the alphabet. So I would be like, A stands for Australian Shepherd, and then the next person would do B. Second skill that I found helpful was called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you and the other person say a word. So if I said tree and someone said frog, and then we do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And since both of our things are green, we would be like green and see if we could like guess the same thing as each other based off of what the two words we had said before were. Another skill that I found really helpful was a breathing skill. I know it sounds really plain and boring, but it's square breathing. So you breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so on. It just goes in a square, and that visual representation can be super helpful. So honestly, you can trace it in the air as you do it, so you make sure that you're like going with the pattern, and it helps regulate your breathing and get you back to a calmer state to face what was making you anxious instead of facing it in a high anxiety way. Another helpful grounding skill is colors in the room, where got something brown and you have to try to guess, sort of like an I Spy thing. And there's another one that's similar. This one is very, very important skill that I find so helpful for grounding myself. It's also called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I believe. It's 5, I don't know if I'm gonna say this in the right order, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. And it's very helpful for grounding because it really brings you back to like the present moment and just gets you into the zone of like, this is where I am right now. Right now is all I have to worry about. I don't need to worry about future. I don't need to worry about past. It's right now. What is happening right now? And it's extremely helpful. Other things that you can find helpful are listening to music. That was something that really helped calm me down and bring me back. Music can be so helpful because you can relate to it in different ways. So if you're feeling sad, listen to sad music, or happy music if you want to like cheer yourself up. But sometimes finding that thing where it's like not masking your feelings, but just feeling heard and like listening to music can help calm you down, along with stuff like reading or praying or talking to your friends. All of that is super helpful, and that's stuff that I would highly recommend. Another big thing is called TIP. I'm forgetting what it stands for, but I will put it on the screen. It is a technique that snaps you right back to the moment. It may not work for everybody, but it worked pretty well for me. An example could be dunking your head into a bucket of cold water or holding an ice pack on the back of your neck. That stuff is extremely helpful to me. 2 other sorts of tip are tightening all your muscles and then just like letting it go. That can be super helpful. And another one would be eating something sour, spicy, chewing ice, which is super cold. Any of that stuff that like sparks your mind a little and brings you to the moment is so helpful. Sour Patch Kids were a big thing for me. I remember one day I was really struggling and my behavioral specialist who helped me through exposures just gave me a handful of Sour Patch Kids, and I was like, this is so good, and also it is helping so much. So recommended Sour Patch Kids. Anything that's really sweet, anything spicy, Takis, you do you, girl. Like, if you want to eat some Takis and that helps, then go for it, because it could. And so tip was a really big thing, and it's very helpful. Make sure that you're drinking lots of water. That is something I struggled with and sort of avoided due to my bathroom OCD, and highly recommend. Water is so healthy for you and for your mind. It's weird that I'm saying that because I'm on a very consistent diet of apple juice and root beer, but I am trying so hard to drink water. In fact, hear me out. I was completely against these things. I was like, no siree, who needs that much water? It looks stupid. No offense to anybody who has one of these. But then when I found out Olivia Rodrigo was having one of these, was creating one of her own, and it was limited edition, I was like, yes, this is gonna get me to drink water. So find yourself something that you would actually like genuinely motivate you to drink water. Even put notes, like reminders on your phone to drink water. It's really good for you. That is all I have for today's video. I hope some of these skills can be helpful, and that maybe if you are struggling, treatment is something that you're willing to look into. Love you all. Bye.